start walking. And so I'm thinking, assuming that everybody has sort of already seen the front side, I'm going to go out to 11, we're going to go down 11 to 12, and then we're going to work our way back to the corner. I'm thinking if we don't do a lot of talking, it's probably an hour, hour and a half. But I have to be back here to set up a little bit before 6. So if there's any questions, I guess just, scream. Just real quick, there's a video camera here rolling. That's Art McCafferty from Michigan Golfer. He's been following us. If anybody's been following him, he's got
hi, Mom. There's the hi, Mom shot. 1, 2, 3. Hi, Mom. Send money.
behind, and we review everything before it goes out. So you can say whatever you want. We can strike it.
That's right.
Nice shirt. If you walk up number 10, you actually can kind of see a little bit of a view quarter as you walk through 10 out to 11, so you've got these long vistas, and then if you just kind of span around the property, now you can already see all the way over to 12 green in the distance. You can see some of the topography, old 5 fairway. We've expanded 5 fairway, so you really get to see a lot of the golf course of what we've done here right from this spot. I'm excited about 11. This is a par 3. It's about 225 yards from the back tee, and it goes all the way up. You can see all the different sets of tees. We've got upwards of 6 sets of tees, from 7,000 yards all the way down to 4,000 yards. And you're also starting to see the channel getting carved in at the bottom. It's not finished yet. We got a lot of rain, as you guys know, this last week, so we've kind of halted on that. But about 2,500 foot of channel that is at the bottom of the property that all it does is just wick water away when it rains. So all the drainage has been really working really well. My count was about 15 miles of drain pipe, 2 inches and 4 inches, and then 2,500 feet of about 18-inch culvert, the equivalent of an 18-inch culvert, all through the bottom of the property here. So I think everything I don't know, Jared can probably attest that we've already started to see the golf course drain way better than it's ever done. So, and then off in the distance, you're seeing 6 green. So one of the intentional, if you heard some of my meetings, I'm always looking at these long views and how the backdrop of maybe another hole or another landscape feature plays into the composition of the hole. So 11, it's intentional to make it look like the fairway bleeds off the back of the green, and the bunkers on 6 are meant to look like part of the composition of 11, and then everything together with the fescue areas that we'll get in the background. To me, this is going to be a pretty dramatic spot. You'll probably see a lot of pictures from this hole here. Just clarifying too, you see some of the sandy kind of wasty areas that don't really have much grass growing. That's our conversion to fescue. So what we're in the process now, you see all these little white flags. They're essentially starting to determine, okay, we're going to start to make this the edge of where that long fescue is going to go. It doesn't always mean it's going to be grown long. Some of it can still be mown out, just depending upon play. But all across here, we're going to probably get upwards of 20-25 acres of fescue. So what you're seeing in the background, which doesn't really quite look good right now, is just our process of getting the fescue going. Interestingly enough, Jared will talk to this better than I can, but it's been so warm and it's been so dry, it hasn't been very good fescue growing weather. So we're now getting into the point where the cool season, with a little more wet and some moist weather, is going to be better for the fescue. So we've had such a spectacular year to build a golf course. It's been incredible. We joked about a contractor trying to figure out what was a dirt pile and what was a chocolate drop. So history of this, it goes back all the way through the turn of the century, where the rudimentary form of golf was basically dig a hole and leave a pile. So a lot of the old courses that you see of some of the earliest guys that are building the courses in this country, they call these little chocolate drops, little kind of rudimentary engineered features. And so I've started to kind of parlay some of that into the design, kind of harkening back 100 years ago. The other thought is they look so stark now because there's no grass growing around them. So one of the things is once the fescue kind of grows up, it gives a little bit more of a context, a little texture, shadows. And then it just basically, Willie Park Jr. was a lot of our inspiration here. So you see a little bit of that, a lot of that on his courses in England. So what we did is this was one of the holes that I did a lot of them. You don't see a lot of them around. You see over to the left, there's 3 of them over there along the rock wall on the left of number 2. And I think there's probably a few scattered down through the channel. Yeah, to the left of one.
Left of the background one.
Yep. So the idea was just to kind of make it feel like, one of the ways that I feel that you can make a golf course feel like it's been around a while is make it feel like some different projects were done at different times, and there's a remnant that somebody was here working on it, and so these kind of give you that sense. So all of the chocolate drops are generally going to be in fescue, out of play areas. They won't really be in the main play. There's going to be some more minor ones. You can see some to the left here. They're a lot more subtle and beat down. There's some on the right of number 2. Those will be rough grass that you'll play out of. How the putting surface drapes over the side of some of these shapes, and I think one of the things that I'm really excited to get people's feedback, and what I love a lot about the green surfaces is that we were really able to be creative with how the green was tied in and where the mowing lines really started to kind of just drape over a feature. We didn't necessarily drive a green edge based on a feature. We just kind of overlaid it and let it just kind of flow and try to be as natural as possible. So this is a little bit of a hole-in-one little pocket there. It's about, like I said, it's our longest par 3, so I'm interested to see how the ball is going to be rolling off. It's one of the charges was to ensure that the greens were what people talk about for Meadowbrook, and I'm really interested to see how people talk about them, because they are going to be, if the speed of these greens get going any more than maybe 11, there's going to be some interesting putts going on around here. So I think if there was one thing that we did in the project and talked a lot about is percentages and pin placements and how far to push it. And I think we've gotten it right to the edge before we've gone too far.
Pitch percentages?
Yeah, slope percentages. Like, you may have heard me talk about 6 and 7% slope on the old number 2 green. And so we're trying to target anywhere from 3% or less. So 2 to 3.5% are our pin placements, as opposed to 5 and 7%. So this 6th hole behind us here, that's the brand new golf hole that connected that spot to go up to 7 tees up on the hill. If you ever get back out, if you have not sat on 7 tee, that's a really good spot to see kind of the impact of the property. So we've kind of shifted this center part over. 11 went down and to the left, and then this is the new 12 tee. Basically the same landing area where you guys used to aim towards, but just rotated it about 30, 40 degrees. So inside the fairways, and find little areas that'll be all mown within the fairway, but this is the 4,000 yard tee for number 12. So you can kind of see its little edge up through here. It still has to kind of grow in. So this is you have to look real tight, real closely. But there's a couple of tees that we built specifically for the forward tees. Most of them are all in the fairways like this. So our intention would be to be a nice big yardage marker somewhere along this pad, so it's pretty easy to see, but you would not probably have the actual tee markers for this forward tee.
Be flat.
It'd be flat in the ground. Yeah, so that the mowers can go right over the top of them. And then I think a lot of it's going to come back to how successful you guys really, use these tees, and as they kind of evolve, you might do something different. But as of right now, it's just part of the fairway. This was one of the spots that as soon as I came out on the property, I'm like, it was buried in the trees. So pretty much your old fairway was somewhere, I don't know, here's the old sprinkler, so we didn't touch that. So it was somewhere over here. So we expanded it way out to the right and pushed the green. You remember the old green was right down in front of us. It's all the way back into the hill, basically where the old 6th green was. So we've widened this out. It's probably one of the more difficult holes on the front side. Big and wide, and I think completely brings into the strategy of the golf hole this whole natural area. We didn't hardly touch anything here. We just planted grass. And I think to me this is one of the more exciting, as we expose with a couple of trees being removed, an entire fairway that just is reminiscent of some of the greatest Irish, Scottish kind of landscape. So we pushed the tees back a little bit. So So this is playing about I think it's about 460 or 470 from the back and then all the way up. But again, we got the 6 sets of tees that let you get, the intention is for you to play the right set of tees so you get all the way up into this nose. And depending upon where your ball lands and how it lands, you could go anywhere from a 5-iron or a rescue club all the way down to a 8-iron or a wedge. So I imagine 4 guys playing from the same tee might hit the same drive but have 3-4 different shots in based on where the ball goes. You can see that post sticking out of the ground kind of in the horizon line. That's where the old halfway house was. And so we pushed this green about 40 yards forward, and we surveyed this green. I don't know, you probably followed all that in our meetings, and basically pushed it 40 yards, built the same green, and then kind of massaged it because that was so steep. So we'll walk up on here, be interested in your feelings to see how close it was to the old green. I've been told it's pretty close, a little bigger. So all the areas that you didn't have pin placements or slopes that were too steep, we tried to address them. But for the most part, the horizon line's all about the same. The fall-offs on both sides are about the same, and just 40 yards forward or back. I took all the bent grass, basically all the bent grass over the back, all the way down and all the way to 13 tees. So it's all mown as one tight area. So if you do miss the green, you'll be chipping from down below. So to me, as you go through all of the flow of a golf course, you always need a little bit of a breather. This is the closest thing we've got to a breather on the backside here. Is the par 3 down the hill. Just basically the same green that was there before. We reshaped the bunkers. But this was probably 1, 13, and 18 are the 3 that were as close to the original greens as you had. We barely even touched anything of the surface. We flattened out some of the left and the right of this particular green just to get a little more. You couldn't put a pin on the left side of this green, so we got that up a little bit. But for the most part, everything in the middle of the green, in the front of the green, is all original. We're standing on 4 green. So old four green was up on that little plateau, and I thought it was important as part of this hole that the second shot is actually not bad to go play to the old 4th green if you still have that shot. The other guys could bang it over there's a bit of a coffin bunker, like don't go there bunker right in front of us that you can't quite see where all the wattles are. But depending upon how you get up on the tee ball, you can get it up running on top of this hill and it'll shoot right down. That's one of the reasons why there's so much short grass, and it's a smaller green. So you'll either play up to the top edge, up to the coffin bunker, or go for it. It's a wedge approach or a flip around the side. Protected by a bunker on the front left. I don't think you're going to want to hug the lake too much here. But for the guys that are hitting 2-3 shots, you got plenty of spot to get around it. But a lot of variety here, and it's all predicated on really where your tee ball is. So you really want to pay attention to the tee shot on this hole. And so the old fairway really is everything to the right of the big gouge in the middle of the fairway. So the old fairway, the trees came all the way clear out to that area, to almost halfway across this. So we cleared the trees all the way back left and more than doubled the width of the fairway. So the strategy behind this hole has always been this idea of left-right, playing left-right off the tee based on where the flag is. So my hope is that we do some sort of a note or sign that whoever's doing the pins of the day comes here and puts a peg in the board to tell you where the flag is. So that's
there's a horseshoe-shaped green.
Because there's a horseshoe kind of boomerang-shaped green. There's no bunkers up there. At one point we talked about putting a bunker in the middle. Now it's just all mown short grass. So the idea would be to try to get it on one side or the other, and if you don't hit it too far enough, you're gonna get sucked down in. If you're a big baller, I've added about 6-7 yards in the back, but you should be able to, again, keep that, fly it all the way up to the top. But still, I think the green is designed for a full wedge shot. You don't really want to do a half or 3/4. It's not, you're going to want to have some spin going in there. But for the most part, whatever your thoughts are on these two areas of putting surface, you've got an entire, almost twice the size of your other greens. This whole size right here is about 8,000 square foot itself. So you got plenty of pins and plenty of ability to put pins all on the edge of the ridge, depending upon the wind or what kind of yard you want to play. I think the pins down in these little areas of the lion's mouth are going to be somewhat rare. Stand right here in the middle.
Yeah, right in the middle. Come on out, guys. All right, so guys, I just want to take a quick minute to recognize two of my assistants here at Meadowbrook, Brian Hilfinger, Andy O'Haver. They've been the driving force behind what you guys see here from tee to green. All the grass that's been planted, all the grass in the greens, approaches, tees, have all been done by hand and walking. So these guys have done a phenomenal job, and we wouldn't be where we're at today without these two guys leading our crew around this property, and just phenomenal. I just want to give them a round of applause.
And I'd add, one of the things we did to try to get the number to build this project down as tight as possible is the club bid off a bunch of their own work. So we purchased all of our own materials. So we managed, almost $1 million worth of materials through the property, or through the project, and then they seeded everything themselves. So in retrospect, it was maybe a little bit bigger of an undertaking than we had imagined, but they did a phenomenal job, a huge job, with a crew that was probably positioned to do half of it. They did it all, and they did it in a hurry. So they had jokes because they all had their little step trackers. And a good day for us is maybe 5,000. They were pushing 50,000 steps in a day. So, kudos to those guys. A lot of hard work, and I'm sure they've shed some pounds because of it.
Wondering, we're trying to be as proactive as we can. This, I feel, is our thinnest green, and the green that has the farthest to go. You see a lot of these areas, they're a little bit larger underneath the cover, but not by too much. So, trying to take advantage of this cover helps to keep a little bit of temperature, more temperature, higher temperature underneath the cover. So we're just trying to be a little proactive. And as we get cooler in October, this cover will continue to stay on the green until we feel good about our density. So weekly fertilizer
out of the swale. So what you're standing on is all still fairway, with plenty of bent grass bailout to the left, kind of protecting the right-hand side, and a pretty mundane green. But with a lot happening around it.
Say, mister, that's a pretty swell swale.
It's very swell. That's what they call a Barit swale, I guess. Inspired. A lot of Willie Park greens around, especially around this area. Wasn't so much in Europe, in England, is the square corners that are kind of elbows with a little kind of rambling horizon line with a bump in the middle. And if you want to know, if you go to the back of number 2 green, we never touch the back of number 2 green, so the horizon line all in the back is an original Willie feature, and so we kind of try to use that as kind of replicated. You go to some of the, like Battle Creek or Sylvania to a certain extent around this area, he kind of does the same horizon lines in the back of those greens, back of his greens. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he probably had the same guy building all of his courses out here, because he did so much work around 1916, 17, 18. But that is one of the things that we tried to do. So if you look closely, a lot of our greens have that same horizon line. There it is. Can we walk through here without any problem? Yeah. All right, so let's just walk into 18. Let's go home. Home hole.
We're going home.
Good Sunday, Ken. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for taking the effort. And you only reserve judgment until after you've played it. After you get a couple of. It's one thing to look at a golf course. It's a whole other thing to actually play it and then watch the ball roll and then learn. So thanks for the opportunity and thanks for being out here.
Thank you.
Good job.